Welcome to episode 13 of the Same 60 Pokemon podcast. I'm Jeffrey, JGB 146 Blake.
And I'm Nate, Sky Circus, CCG.
So Nate, what's going on with you?
Well, just came back from Knoxville. It's a really fun trip. Ended up driving. It was 12 hours, and it was a great time.
12 hours each way?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that far. I thought Knoxville was closer than that. Well, so, do you have any trip highlights other than the whole taking over Knoxville thing? Other than the tournament?
Our hotel had unlimited coffee and hot chocolate.
Nice. Hot chocolate. That's where it's at.
And it had some breakfast, and it was great.
Had unlimited coffee and hot chocolate. And some breakfast that was great. Was the breakfast great or great?
I think that the hot chocolate was better than the breakfast.
Is that because you like hot chocolate so much? Or because the breakfast was adequate?
The breakfast was okay. It was enjoyable.
All right. I'm going to stop picking on the breakfast. So, what else? Is there anything else other than the event? Or should we start talking about the event?
I think we could start and just get jumped into the event.
Let's do it.
So, Knoxville was a 1,300 person event.
Yeah, which might have been the smallest U.S. regional this season, right?
Mm-hmm. So, do you want to get jumped into my Knoxville or?
Yeah, we'll start with you and then talk about everybody else because you're the important one for our podcast.
Okay, so I started off pretty well. I started off 3-1 going into lunch break. Okay. Round 1, I hit DTE Mew and.
What were you playing?
Oh yeah, so at the event I played Charizard Pidgeot with the 4 Arvents. And
sometimes
a little bit of the sauce. I played 4 tools, 2 de-evolutions, and Choice Belt and 4 Seal Stone.
Okay.
So, round 1, I hit DTE Mew, where they just spam Judge and Path. I ended up taking that match 2-0, because, Zard hits Mew for weakness.
That's funny, because I just listened to Andrew Mahone talk about going, 4-0-1 against Charizard with Mew at Knoxville, because DTE Path can't fail.
So the thing is, my opponent did not play Box of Disaster.
Oh, that was a key component that Andrew mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So going into round 2, I faced a Fusion Mew.
Okay.
I ended up taking that a little bit. It's a really close game. I ended up taking it 2-0, but then we're 2-0 at this point. Played against DT Mew and Fusion Mew. Round 3, I faced the mirror match with they played Arvin, they played Charizard, Pidgeot.
Did they play the Radiant Zard, which, by the way, is a spicy inclusion that you didn't mention when you said spiciness?
That is true. I do play the Radiant Zard. It was pretty good.
Did they play it in the mirror? Okay.
They did.
So it was like a real mirror with almost all cards the same.
So game 1, I misplayed. I ended up taking that 5th prize.
Oh.
But when you usually shouldn't. But
Right, because you end up, if you take a 5th prize, then they are, the other side, Charizard, can hit for 330 and Oko.
Yep. But game 2, I hit off a very good de-evolution turn. Okay. I just left him with no Zard in play.
Nice.
And then going to game 3, did not reveal that I had a second de-evolution.
Is that where you got him?
As soon as I slapped down game 3, my second he was like, it's over.
Nice. That's why we play 2. We got some questions from people locally that were looking at your list while you were playing because you shared it to the locals. And one of the questions was, why do you play 2? That's why. All right. So you're 3-0 then.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So going to round 4, I go against a Sablezard, where it's like a Lost Box deck that's based around Radiant Charizard.
Right.
They play 2 Team de-evolutions themselves, so game 1 is really close. I got down to 1 prize, but they ended up, counter-catching, outstanding me, then hitting the Rotom for knockout. I just needed, a card to win, but just whiffed, fortunately. And then game 2, the Devos came in effect. He, on a good timing, knocked out my Charmeleon, and did this Roxanne Devo, which was really good. So it's 3-1 going into lunch break is pretty good.
Well, do you think that that's one of the worst matchups for Charizard?
I wouldn't say it's a bad matchup. If you hold your candies and evolve accordingly, in that matchup to not go crazy on your cane.
Okay.
You're probably not playing with Pidgeot that game.
Okay.
You like Charmeleon. It's really good.
Do you think, because I've seen and heard talk of people playing 2 Charmeleons for situations like that where you want to evolve manually. Do you think that would be a good alteration?
The hard part is finding the Charmeleons. I mean, we have livable now, but like a lot of people have been focusing and playing the 100 HP Charmeleon.
Mm-hmm.
But there's
Well,
like,
so I think some of the lists that are going that way are actually playing a TM Evo for that purpose. Do you
okay,
think that is a good route to take, or do you think that it's better
I mean,
this way?
it's pretty good. It's just you have to find all the pieces for it to work efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you have Arvin, but like then you have to find the fire energy, which we play 6 now, which is a bit more difficult. I think I like the Devo portion of the deck a bit more, but maybe I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, you you could still have two Devos in there, and then you could maybe switch out the choice belt for a TM Evo.
Yeah. It helps you turn to Charizard more efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps against, things like path decks, because all you need is just a boss vacuum and just a Charizard.
Yep. Okay. So
So
you yeah, go.
3-1 going into lunch break. Round 5, I hit Moon,
Okay.
and this was like basically the second most played deck in the tournament
Yeah.
because it was crazy.
No,
I only actually
I was looking at the numbers. I was watching.
and a really good player. He basically avoided putting like a Squawkabilly or a Galarian Moltres V in play, and only had his Moons in play.
Wow. That's hard to do. And still, I guess he has time to do that against Charizard because you can't Oko anything if he doesn't put those. Okay.
Because the best I could have done was just poke him with the Obsidian Flames Charmander for 30, but then, I fall behind by a lot by that time. The thing is, I really wanted to play the gloves from the
Right.
Dark types.
Right. It seems like that's what sometimes is played in the spot where either you have your second Devo or where you have your choice belt. Sometimes that's the gloves, right?
Yeah, if I've known that Moon was second most played, I'd probably cut a Devo for a glove.
Okay.
Because I only played an evolution deck once throughout the whole day.
Okay. I mean, you still have the Charizard to contend with, and you literally said that won you that match.
So I ended up actually losing that to so I'm 3-2 at this point. And so going in around 6, I actually hit Snorlax stall.
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't say it's the worst way to go, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's not happy times for you.
Because going to that, most Charizard players know that's not a loss. Some people could make it a tie, but
I don't.
yeah.
Azul won versus Snorlax. I don't. I don't see how.
So game 1, I started Manaphy.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'll tell you that's not how Azul does it.
And so game 2, I only had one Pokemon in play, and
Okay.
no Pokemon in my hand for Erica.
Right?
As soon as I took my third prize, I took Jirachi off my prizes, and then
And
he played Erica at the
it's just
same turn.
oh. So close.
And my switch did not do anything. And then, for 3-3, we're like, okay, we'll go to the next round, just get points from this event.
Sure.
Because, I was not upset that I hit Block Slacks. Like, it's a deck. A lot of people in our community were like, it's a gross deck. No respect towards that deck.
I mean, it would be ridiculous, frankly, for you to feel that way because of all the people in our community, you're the most likely to actually play a deck like that.
And I was like, it's not the deck. The deck is a very respectful deck. And, if it wasn't, it would have been played as much as it is currently.
Sure.
But, the players is what it truly matters. It's like, how did the player treat you? See, now that's when it's...
Well, yeah. I think that it's fair to say that's uniformly the case, that players treating others poorly is bad. And, okay, that sounded way too simplistic, but it is what... I mean, it's basically what I'm trying to say, right?
So, 3-3. Round 7, I go against Golden Go. And
Okay.
some people are like, man, really bad matchup. Radiant Zard puts in a lot of work.
Yeah. Really?
So
Wait, people say that's a really bad matchup for you or for them?
Used to be really bad for Charizard, but now it's pretty good because of Radiant Zard.
I don't even know that it was, like, horrible for Charizard because it's not trivial for Golden Go to hit those numbers. It can do it, but that's 7 energy that they need to come up with.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you're right that Radiant Zard takes it from being maybe slightly unfavored to significantly favored. Like, I'd say it's easily 60-40 in Zard's favor if you're playing Radiant Zard. Possibly higher than that.
Yeah, the game was really close. There was a point in the game where they were at 1 prize, and then I was at 2. I had to boss stall their Palkia V-Star because they were playing the Radiant Greninja Palkia cancel.
Right.
So
that probably makes the matchup a little bit harder for you too, that they can actually. I was thinking of the previous iterations before the whole Palkia thing came out, and obviously when they can do a Greninja attack pretty early on, if they can snipe 2 things, that helps them quite a bit.
So when they were at 1 prize and I was at 2, I had to basically boss stall their Palkia.
Right.
Because I've noticed that all of their cross switchers on the discard.
Okay.
And I benched Radiant Zard. So what they did to me next was, alright, attached to Palkia, then Iono. They Iono'd me to Choice Belt Energy.
Alrighty then.
I knew, based off of how I played my whole game, that the switch would be on the top portion of my deck, because the amount of times you Iono and play Arven. I'm like, okay, maybe Pokestop will give me a dub here, because the Pokemon I had me active was not Radiant Zard. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to Pokestop for a switch. And I Pokestopped for a switch. I knocked out the Palkia, and then we went into Game 2. Game 2 was a lot more smooth sailing. I just basically attacked with Charizard the whole game. EX.
Nice.
Alright, so I'm 4-3, and this is where the case where it's true. I go against DTE Mew, round 8. This is Judge Path with boxes. Game 1, they Judge Path. There's not much you can do. You have to have a Lost Vacuum or Stadium, Rare Candy Charizard, then an out to get rid of their box. Because they can easily just double power tab, knock out your Charizard, and Judge Path again.
Right.
So that's when the Charmander is really good, to bump their Stadium and stay as a series.
Mm-hmm.
Rotom, not really that great in that matchup because it makes their,
It helps their prize. Yeah, it would help their prize map, and also they're going to put you under path as often as possible, so you're not even getting the benefit of the draw that much.
Yeah, if you're going to draw 3 cards, they're going to definitely judge you again.
Yeah.
So I ended up losing Game 1.
Okay.
But Game 2, I actually got around it. I got around the box and the path. Got 2 Charizards set up. And then I was sailing for sure. And then Game 3, just the same case of Game 1. Just Judge Path with boxes. I couldn't get rid of both. Double power tabs came in. And then I sealed up the match. I lost. I was 4-4 at that point. 5-4 guaranteed points, which was kind of crazy.
Okay.
Round 9, I actually faced my first Miraidon.
So, typically, Miraidon is considered to be a good matchup, right? Okay.
Miraidon just cannot really hit the numbers. It cannot hit the 330 threshold.
I mean,
he can with Raichu.
Yeah. And that's why they're starting to play 2 copies of Raichu, right?
Which is weird, because now Zard plays Bill, which makes it a bit kind of weird.
Yeah. You talk.
Back in the day, before when Zard played Bell, Raichu would have been fine just going into the active and using their attack to search for their deck for an energy.
Right. The fast charge.
I didn't want to say instant charge because that's Rotom.
Yeah. It's not instant, it's just fast.
And but now they can't with Choice Bell being played as often.
Yeah. I mean, they could still... There are still things that can be done, for sure. But yeah, they're definitely... It depends on if they structure their deck right and if they practice the matchup enough, I think.
What I've learned, Iron Hands Arm Press turn 2 is a pretty sick play. Because if they amp turn 2,
then you get the knockout. Yeah.
But if they arm press, they take a prize, then they can't get knocked out. Yep. Unless you're playing the spongy lows.
That's one of the plays that I've tried to integrate at times. Also, EXP shares can definitely help smooth the matchup out for them. Because if they hang on to energies throughout the game, that is a big aid, a big boost for them.
Yep.
But I mean, those are the 2 things that have to happen for them to have a chance, I think. Especially with Zard playing Belt.
But yeah, overall, 5-4 on the event. I got 20 points to go towards Honolulu.
Nice.
Probably just doing for fun at this point.
Yeah, it's without any placements this deep into the season, it's gonna be tough.
But yeah, I think I'm on a good path. I'm gonna continue trying to learn this deck.
Okay.
Because once Wise Man said fear the man that's played a deck 1,000 times versus the man that plays 1,000 decks.
Sure. I think I have long encouraged you to find a deck that works for you and stick with it for a sizable amount of time. So I'm kind of happy to hear that. I know that we weren't really going to talk about it in depth yet. I know other podcasts are starting to, but I kind of think it's a little too early to talk about the post-rotation meta. But I will say that I think you and I have both seen Charizard is the one deck that is still doing well from both the current meta and into the post-rotation meta, whereas we're seeing a lot of decks kind of fall by the wayside when they lose key components over in Japan. They haven't really had enough time to try out all the different builds and technology to see if they can compensate properly. So that's why I say it's too early. We've only seen like 2 or 3 weeks of results from them, I think. But
And it's probably going to change once it comes to the States, too.
well, sure. And that's part of what I'm getting at, too. Like, I think we can say, okay, yes, Charizard will remain a strong contender, but that's about all we can really conclude from what we're seeing of their meta results. And that's why I don't want to get into it any further. But what I'm trying to say is I think that if you're going to pick a deck right now before rotation to stick with, Charizard's probably a good one.
Worst Snorlax block. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Agree to disagree. Okay. So that's your results. You got some points. Maybe not quite as many as you'd been hoping for, but positive result on the trip, which is awesome. If I'm not mistaken, this is your first regional making points this season.
That is true.
Which, hey, that's good. Lay down a good foundation this season, and next season, try to build even further.
That's what I'm going to try to do. Just keep on playing, try to get better, and try to get more points. That's what I'm trying to do this season, is just to get as many points as I can. See where I can, get to be. And so far, I'm almost to 200. And I looked over for the events this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
If I win one of the challenges this weekend, I'm going to be at 199.
I was 1 point ahead of you the last time we checked, if I recall. So that means if I had gone to regionals and placed the same, I would actually be right at 200. But I bowed out of that game a while back for cost reasons. Hoping to maybe make that go different next time around, but we'll see. Anyway, so now let's talk about overall the bigger picture. We saw two or three Roaring Moon make, it was 2, right, that made top 8 this time around?
Yeah, there was one in top 8 and one in top 4.
Okay, 2 made top 8, 1 went further than that, but yeah. And Roaring Moon was one of the highest converting decks, even though it was also one of the most played decks, which I thought was very impressive. And I was very proud of myself for, declaring that Roaring Moon was the unsung hero of the format in one of our last podcasts. I'm like, see, I told you. Because, yeah, it was over 20% of the day 2 meta. It was, second most played on day 1, and still had, one of the best conversion rates to jump up to almost 22% of day 2. That's 1 in 5 people that you play in day 2. Basically, everyone on average is going to play 2 Roaring Moon.
Yep.
That's crazy sauce.
You know what's also crazy? That I saw that Iron Valiant Entei in top 8.
Yeah. Yeah, that one kind of came out of left field. I was not expecting it to place that well. Tyler's been doing well with that deck, too. He's been playing it. He made some top 32s, top 64s over the course of the last few regionals. And he might be the first person that I've seen that's actually playing the 1/1 Bidoof line in there. Well, Bidoof barrel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a different way to play the deck, and definitely complicates matters because you have to balance your bench. But I think that helps out a lot, because one of the defining aspects of that deck, Iron Valiant Entei, is that it starts to get into kind of trouble if you're making it, if you disrupt its hand late game. So
I also like the way they have it built now. It's just three Valiants instead of 4. 2 Entei's instead of 3, I think.
generally,
4 Entei's.
I mean, yeah, when it first came onto the scene, it was 4 Entei's and 4 Valiants, and not a whole lot else. It was like, let's put a bird in here to start our first hand well, and then we'll throw down a Metacham when we can. Now they've got Bidoof in there to help smooth out the draws later on. They recognize that you don't have to play 4 Valiants if you're only going to really end up using 2 most games. We've got Super Rod, which I've like clamored for since the deck was first on the scene.
But yeah, also, Tina had a top 8 and top 4. Like
Yeah.
Moon.
Yeah, it did. It continues to be.
It did not take the win this time.
It did not. But it continues to be a very strong force in the meta. And it did, as you informed me of, because I hadn't followed it, it did win over on the other side of the pond, as they say, in Australia, in Melbourne. So Tina's not going anywhere. It's still a heavy presence. It's just backing down just a little. It's waiting. It's biding its time. It'll come back. It's got to do one more big thing, I think, before it rotates out. And when I say it rotates out, it loses like very little. Just Path to the Peak. But Path to the Peak is such a huge component. I mean, not just. It also loses the VIP Battle Pass. Like most decks are losing. But, I mean, it's got the Buddy Poffin to get Comfies going at least. That'll hurt it a little because it can't get Greninja off of Poffin. And it can't get Cram. But it can't get Ditto, so you can balance it out. But it loses Path. And Path is such an integral part of how Lost Tina wins that, again, referencing the Japanese results that we can't like really define anything by, but the Tina list and the Charizard list, I think, are staying so similar that you can make some judgments. And Tina has performed horrible over there, even though it had been like they were, Tina exploded here finally. It exploded over in Japan a couple months ago. So you can't always define the meta from what it is there to what it's going to be here. But sometimes you can. And I think it's fair to say that Tina is going to mostly fizzle if something strange doesn't happen to change it.
I agree. So what were your thoughts of the cool Lost Box decks that played Mawile and Kyogre?
I haven't explored them thoroughly, not as much as I should. See, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but I've developed a strange new addiction to Palworld.
Oh, man.
And that has eaten into some of the Pokemon, like, following that I previously would have done. Because in the past, like, week and a half, I've played, like, almost 60 hours of Palworld.
Ooh, that's good. Sounds like it's fun.
We'll talk more about it after we finish talking about tournament results. But I do want to touch on what won, and that's Guardy taking it home.
Guardy was overhyped going into the event because it has a good matchup in Nizard, and it showed off. It played by Ryan Antonucci.
I don't know if you can say it was overhyped when it also had a strong conversion rate into day 2, and it won the event. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure I know a lot of Canadian players played Guardy over this past weekend, and like half of them made day 2.
Well, there you go. I will say Guardy also has depending on which route you're taking with your build, but the more typical Roaring Moon build that we've been seeing, which isn't my favorite build currently, but I'm different. I think Guardy has a pretty decent matchup into the typical Roaring Moon build as well. So that means both of the top 2 decks from day 1, Guardy did well against. And then in day 2, I mean, Charizard didn't completely disappear. It was still there. So Guardy still had a pretty decent time in day 2.
Overall, it's kind of a small venue, so it was really hot. And it was in a basement, which was bad cellular service. There was a lot of people that had to look at paper pairings.
That's unfortunate. I hope, I hope that it's not there next year.
I would like it to be like maybe Nashville or like maybe Memphis.
Yeah, that would be nice. So Loki, here's the thing I'm going to put out there, and maybe I shouldn't, but maybe I should. I've noticed both of the last 2 years, so if they do it again next year, I'm going to be prepared if I can. They have this super long block before rotation, right? That runs from like the beginning of November until the end of March. And there's like like there's an IC and then there's a whole bunch of regionals that are all that format. And I think that if someone's wanting to get like to hit numbers, I think that specializing in the format that's going to be, last year it was the Lugia block, right? And everyone got so tired of Silver Tempest and of Lugia. And now this year it's been the Paradox Rift block. And people haven't gotten as tired of stuff because, it has changed up. It was the Charizard format, and then it became the Tina format with Charizard still being around. And now Roaring Moon is raising his hand saying, hey guys, I'm here. So it's not as static as Lugia made it.
But enough. At the beginning of this format, not even Charizard, Tina, or Moon were playable at the beginning. It was all just Guardy and like
I will argue that Tina has been a stronger deck throughout the entire season than most people made it out to be.
Like at LEIC, it was just Guardy everywhere.
Well, that's because Guardy was getting the hype, which again, I'm not saying it was completely undeserved, but I think that we actually, like, Iron Hands actually made more of a difference than people were willing to admit at first. It was like, I want to say, people said, oh, it's just overhyped, but then it really did impact Guardy's playability for a while. However, that gave Miraidon the boost that it needed to see to start really taking a decent meta share. And then when that happened, Charizard came unglued to say what for. So it's just like this cycle of like different decks that are good against no yield and happen to capitalize on the situation when this one deck is more played than others. It's not the typical like rock, paper, scissors even, because it's not like weakness is the prime factor. It's just like deck style, which is kind of neat. I feel like when weakness is the deciding factor between decks, it's I don't know, it's a little cringy. But when it's just like the actual like foundational structure of how the decks work is the deciding factor, that's more nitty gritty. It's more intricate, and I like that. And I like how it is now, where it's like anything could win still. Like we have 4 at least decks that are contenders for being considered BDIF, and one of those again is Roaring Moon. And I said it when everybody was like, no Moon hasn't done anything.
Yep. I'm curious to see how Moon does without Galarian Moltres this coming up meta.
Yeah, I don't know if Darkrai V and V-Star can pick up and carry it. I haven't tested a full rotation build of it yet. Of course, I still like my favorite version of it is still the version that runs energy switches and Iron Hands and Greninja and Thornton to vary your attacker, to vary your threats, and let you kind of bend to different situations. I don't know if that still relies fairly heavily on the Moltres V, so I don't know if that's going to be playable after rotation. I hope it is, but I'm not sure.
Or maybe they'll come up with a Pokemon that says, attach an energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And it's like a normal type. He's sick.
I mean, we do still have Sandy Shocks, but there are problems with Sandy Shocks, and I don't know that it could fit into a Roaring Moon deck.
Yeah.
Don't count your chickens, buddy. It's a thought worth exploring, I think. But even in the now we're going everywhere, but even in the upcoming post rotation meta with the new, is it Roaring Thunder? Is that what he's called? Roaring Volt? Raging Volt. There we go. I was getting there sort of. They always keep Iron. Iron's always the same, but then they always changed the blotting part to a different verb, and there's something new. Raging Volt. Is it Volt or Bolt?
Bolt. B-O.
Okay. I mean, they're both electricity, right? Okay, Raging Bolt. The first and like most thought of version is a Sandy Shocks version. I'm not even convinced that's the right way to play that deck. I have other ideas that I'm not going to talk about on air yet until I either see that they are amazing or they're horrible. If they're horrible, you won't ever hear them from me. But I have thoughts, and if those thoughts work out there, they could work out other places too. Or Sandy Shocks could just work other places instead. I think there's definite possibility of like a Sandy Shocks Thornton combo, but that's neither here nor there. And I definitely think Moltres V was the far better way to get integrated into Roaring Moon while we've had it.
Yep.
So ultimately, I think I just disagreed with you 3 times and then said, "But you're right." uh, yeah. Is there anything else from Knoxville or Melbourne that you want to bring up before we move on?
Just seems like the meta keeps on changing, and that's what we should have.
Yeah. So what I was getting at is that we have this long block with tons of tournaments. So if that's going to be the case next year, once they announce all the schedules and stuff, if it's going to be like, oh, you could eat up your entire, like, you could get 6 placements in this one format, then I want to be a specialist in that format. And yeah, I'll be like potentially playing some other stuff, but like, I think that is the time to just like really hit it hard. So my thought and ideas are, if I can make it work in my personal life and with my family, trying to go to LAIC next year and then just like hit the ground running, like be well prepared for LAIC and then be really well prepared for the rest of this specific, block, this specific format. I think that can easily be the defining part of your season. So it's what I'm going to try to play for.
Yeah, should be hopefully a changing format like they've been doing. And it should be Generation 10, right?
No. No, we'll have one more block of Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, we'll have... So Scarlet and Violet started this year. Well, I started this season. Technically, it was, 2023. But with the base set of Scarlet and Violet, and that was the G block. And then we're getting H block with the second part of the Paradox Pokemon to start the next block. And then we'll get anything that has it like the I block then. My prediction is that's going to be heavy DLC and then just other generic stuff that they feel like they haven't done enough of.
Yeah.
And then after that, so 2026 will be when we start a whole new generation again.
So Gen 10 is coming up soon.
Gen 10. Soon, it's 2 years away. That would have been like, yeah. You're not old enough to think that far out is soon. Anyway, next thing I wanted to talk about is what we already started talking about, Palworld. So I want to hear your thoughts on Palworld first, Nate.
They're not that very great.
I know. I didn't expect them to be.
So from what my experience, there is a lot of comparable monsters, I guess. But I mean, the aspect of the games is like, imagine Fortnite and Pokemon in one game. That's Palworld, from what I've seen.
I mean, that's closer than what people originally said, which was that Palworld was Pokemon with guns. I'll have you know, I only yesterday... Now, I've played a few different like iterations of the early game, but only yesterday did I actually get my first gun in any of the worlds that I've played on. So it's more been... I mean, it's more been Fortnite with a bow and arrow and a crossbow with Pokemon than it's been Pokemon with guns. But even there, you have a whole like ecosystem of building up resources and resource management and planning out how you're going to maintain those resources, whether you're going to be a more like out there doing the hunting and gathering of food and of iron and wood and stone, or if you're going to build up and train your teams to do it. And there's aspects of how, like, so each pal has traits that play into how they're going to behave. So there's like some that are good fighters, but they're horrible workers, and some that are really good workers, but are horrible fighters, and some that are kind of an even mix. And that's before you even get into typing, which it has a typing, they call it an elemental system. That is typical of most like games that have different types, right? I mean, you have water is weak to electric, ice is weak to fire, that type of thing. But it's its own system. Like it doesn't straight up follow, like it's not a clone of Pokemon in that way in any sense of the word.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more like Fortnite with Pokemon. When I said that, it's not even close to Pokemon.
Right, but no, I mean like it's what I'm saying is even the like design of the creatures, while many of them are visually fairly close to some Pokemon, and there are some that are very, very close.
I
There,
want to bring up one thing: Cobalion, female Cobalion.
I actually don't know what female Cavalion looks like.
I'm sure you'll find that.
Well, I'm gonna look after we're done here, but I guess what I'm saying is like to me, Pokemon. I would say half of Pokemon are based around real animals, so there's automatically going to be some overlap in any game that is also doing realistic-ish animals. Now, stylistically, could they have been further away from Pokemon? They could have. But that's honestly a fairly minor part of the game. And some of the more important pals that, at least what I've dealt with so far, don't have a Pokemon overlap, or at least a clear one. My favorite is like I have this giant like muddy shark creature that can do mining, and he's the first mining helper that I was able to get, and he allowed me to advance, like to automate aspects of the game faster than I would have otherwise been able to, and so he became an early on standout. But I mean, I guess the closest thing might be a Paldean Clodsire, but even then, it's like not like that. That's a stretch. But no, I think what I was getting at is there's a lot of stuff that like there's layers of what you can do and what different directions you can take the game that it's like Fortnite doesn't interest me. It never has. And the Pokemon games have, but this doesn't spark any. I mean, I guess it sparks a little bit of the same aspect, just in that there's creatures that you can capture and build up. But overall, like this is a whole different avenue of play. But that's not even the main thing that I wanted to get at here. I wanted your opinion on this, because from a Palworld fan that's also a Pokemon fan, one of the things that I've been hearing from people that are pro Palworld is that it's likely to light a fire under Nintendo, because they're going to see how well a game that really does more with the creatures in it can do. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, I guess. Do you think so? First of all, I know you've been a fan of the Pokemon videos. You played the heck out of all the last 2 generations, at least. I don't know how far back that's gone, but would you?
I mean, it's good.
Would you agree? Would you go so far as to agree that the games aren't as technologically current as other games out there on the market?
I mean, this is a hard question. I I know that Pokemon's very repetitive, but like, man, I really don't know much about the Palworld stuff.
No, but ignoring Power complete, like just from an aspect of comparing what we as Pokemon fans have gotten for our last few generations of games to other video games that have come out. Like from my perspective, it seems like the graphics by comparison are kind of lacking, and it seems like the gameplay depth. Yes, there's a lot of repeatability and a lot of stuff you can do over and over. And I actually was a fan of the storyline in Scarlet and Violet. I thought Sword and Shield was kind of but I feel like there's a lot of room for it to go deeper and to continue further than the amount of gameplay that actually is there. Without having to then say, well, if I'm going to keep going, I'm either going to shiny hunt or I'm going to get competitive in VGC. And I realize that there are aspects of that maybe Pokemon wants to build up, but would you agree that those three things are things that Nintendo could do better?
So I actually have a lot of things to say about that. So in shiny hunting, they have locked a lot of things, so basically limiting their players. So like in the Scarlet and Violet game, you cannot shiny hunt any of the legendaries, even from the DLC. Like there's like, I think 30 to 40 legendaries that you cannot shiny hunt. But in past games you were able to. They don't really come out with that many Pokemon anymore to shiny hunt. And going into VGC is very repetitive on what Pokemon is better. And you see a lot of common Pokemon come up in VGC over the last, I want to say, 6 years.
Okay.
I just want to say Incineroar has been like every team since Sun and Moon.
Yeah, like it's funny, like you said Incineroar, like because I looked at VGC for just like a blink of an eye and thought about it, and then it was like, no, this isn't for me. But even that, like you said Incineroar, and I was like, yeah, I remember Incineroar.
Yep. It is a Pokemon not really much people like. Also, Landorus is a Pokemon that comes up a lot, more than I would like it to. But yeah, it's just, maybe Pokemon should change the way they give competitiveness and casualness for their players.
So you're what I'm hearing is that you kind of cautiously agree that there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
Do you think that a 6-person company selling over 20 million copies of a game that is, in the world's eyes, seen as a competitor to Pokemon, that clearly has some aspects of things that Pokemon does done as well in a different way, do you think that maybe would serve as a wake-up call to Nintendo to say, hey, do more, do better?
I also like to think of it as like there's also Digimon.
Right, but did Digimon do anything big like this?
I mean, I know that Digimon is still pretty big. Um,
I mean,
but like,
I'll admit, like, I know that Digimon exists. I don't know anything about it whatsoever. But in my eyes, like, it didn't blow up to the point of, like, before even being officially released, 20 million people were in on it. Because Palworld hasn't even officially been released yet. It's still on a, like, early access. Less than 2/3 of the game is in place type of thing.
yeah, if Palworld is the new Pokemon, I'll probably play Palworld. If not,
I mean, in my eyes, I don't want it to be something you have to choose between. But I will say, I was, for a hot minute, conceptualizing how to, like, make a Palworld trading card game to capitalize there. But then they announced that they were doing it, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, 6-person team. Hey, they hired somebody that just like was, had the ideas and went the direction they wanted to go. Maybe that could be me. Maybe I could be the head of the trading card division. But then they announced that, like literally the day after I started like building concepts in my mind of how like to make it all work, they announced that they were already like they had cards that were pictured, like even they were that far along. And it's nothing like what I was thinking, and also not like Pokemon.
So not like 7 prize cards.
No, I'm not even. I'm not clear on how it's going to work, but it doesn't seem like it's even like a collectible card. It's just like a card game the way that like Exploding Kittens is a card game.
Oh.
That's. I'm not saying that's how it is. I'm saying that's what the pictures make me think of. So
maybe it will be competitive.
Maybe. We'll see. I would like to think of it as being a like where I wanted to take it was definitely going to be a like trading card game with collectability and with frequent set releases and stuff. But that's not option that the artwork makes me think they're going. So we'll have to see, basically.
Yeah, you never know. It might just be like the card game is just, trying to throw the game out there as like basically advertising.
Yeah, which is, that, and that's fine too. Not every product has to have a heavily competitive trading card game. Although I feel like they might be missing the mark if they don't go that route. But, I'm just one guy.
Yep, me too.
All right, Nate. Do you have on you a pack of unopened Pokemon cards?
I technically do, but I already opened it. I haven't looked at any of it, though.
Okay. I'm going to trust you that you didn't look at it and that it's complete. What set was it?
It was Scarlet and Violet base set.
Okay.
I opened it before the call.
Okay.
I don't want it to cause much noise.
Okay. Well, I'm going to open mine. Mine is not base set, though. I went with Paldean Fates.
Oh,
We're going to do same 60. I'm jumping the gun. Guys, it's time for same 60 fun time. And for the month of February, we're going to do pack battles. So Nate has opened his. I will open mine.
It's not as noisy as I thought.
Yeah. All right. I'm keeping the code card. My first hit.
I think I can.
My first card. Oh, Nate's giving away his code card. Look at Nate. He's making me look like... You know what? The first person that comments asking for my code will get it. All right. So first off, how do we determine who wins the pack battle? What is the...
All right. So...
There's a couple different ways that we can go, right? It can be on, like, the HP of the Pokemon, or it can be, like, strictly based on, like, rarity, or, So how do you want to do this?
Okay. So we each go through a card.
Okay.
Whoever has the most HP wins that certain battle.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever it goes into rarity, like shiny, secret rare, etc., the highest rarity wins with not HP included.
Okay.
Trainer cards auto lose. They do not win the battle at that point. All right. I went ahead and took out my energy.
I will do that as well. Mine was a basic dark energy.
Mine was a basic water energy.
Yeah, that's pretty much a toss-up anyway. If you had had psychic, I would have argued that I won the energy battle. But all right. So starting off with the Flittle, I got 30 HP, and your big fire thing definitely eats that alive.
Yeah, I had a Houndoom with 120 HP.
All right.
Pretty sick.
I don't know about this one, Nate. I got Pikachu. I think I win just for having Pikachu.
I had a Fido with 60 HP.
Hey, 70 gets it. All right.
I don't think I can win this one.
Well, I'm 70 HP again with Graveyard.
I had 30 HP. I'm a Scatterbug.
Hey. 2 for 3. I'm okay with that. Now we've got Chinchou.
I have Drifloon with 70 HP. Number 2 to 2.
Oh, but I got this one. I'm pretty sure. Don fan with 150, yo.
I got a Katie.
Oh, why couldn't those have been reversed order? Oh no, I got an Atticus.
I got a Star Raptor
That
as
that is
150.
sufficient.
So wait, are we
I think we're
3-3?
yeah. And then I've got a 70 HP mousehold.
I have an electric generator.
Hey, that family attack is working out.
Alright, my first holo is Team Star Grunt.
Mine is a shiny textured Annihilate.
Ooh, you win that one for sure.
Yeah.
Alright, I have a holo 100 HP Bruxish.
I have a reverse hollow, which yours is a reverse hollow as well.
Yep.
I have a reverse hollow 70 HP Chimecho.
Yeah.
So is that a tie, or does that...
So wait, how much HP does Chimecho have?
It has 70.
I have 100.
Okay, I didn't know, because you said once we get to the rare cards that it was... Okay.
What is the rarity of your Chimecho?
Common.
Mine's also common.
Okay.
I think I win that one, for sure.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Alright, and the rare? I have Maridon has 120 HP.
I have Executor with 130 HP. Also just rare. Hollow.
Alright. That means that you win this week.
Hey, I did it.
That's a lot of fun.
I also got two cards that I'm kind of happy to get. The shiny Annihilate and the Mousehold with the family attack. It's that set of mice that can hit for that's going to turn Lugia around and make Lugia relevant again, because it can hit for 280 plus.
Oh yeah. But with that said, is there anything else we should add?
I don't think so. I think what we need to add is a request that if you want to see more pack battles, you subscribe, and otherwise we shall offer our thanks that you made it this far into the episode. Thank you for listening. I'm Jeffrey, JGB 146 Blake.
And I'm Nate, Sky Circus TCG.
Peace out.